camera's on. I can edit
camera?
you out, Pete, don't worry. Good morning.
Morning.
I am Matt Marchant, owner of the Marchant Training Method, and today I'd like to talk about the different aspects of my business. There are two main points of focus in my business. There's the physical fitness side, which is the corrective exercise and the strength and conditioning, and there's also the holistic healthcare side, which is what we're going to talk today about, which is holistic nutrition. So my objectives today are this. Number one, I want to describe to you briefly what a holistic health practitioner does. And I've handed out some papers there that go more into detail on what a holistic health practitioner is. We're not going to go into that much detail, but you can read through that. Number two on my objectives are to address the areas of health that are covered in holistic nutrition. Number three, I'd like to share with you the characteristics and traits that make me both unique and effective in my business. And fourth, and most importantly, I would like to explain how I can help your continued success in your business and help you invest wisely in your health. First, let's define what success is. Success, a very easy definition, is getting what you want, whereas happiness is wanting what you get. Well, the great news is we are going to achieve both of those by being able to be successful and get what we want. I'd like to quote an author, Napoleon Hill, who wrote the book Think and Grow Rich. He described 31 major causes of failure. Number 6 is ill health. This author also described the six basic fears that every human suffers at some point in their life. Number 3 is the fear of ill health. So today we're going to talk about how to step over that hurdle in our own success. Quick definition of health before we get started with this presentation is, health is the overall condition of the human body being in optimal order and free of disease. And this is controlled by a few factors. One of the most main and most repetitive factors to our health is what we eat. Health concerns itself with vitality before longevity. We're not concerned with necessarily how long we're alive, but the health of while we are alive. So, what does a holistic health practitioner do? There are 6 major areas of focus that I do when working with the client. Number 1 is breath, helping people breathe correctly. Number 2 is movement, learning to move appropriately for them, applying the concept of working out versus working in. Number 3, sleep, making sure that we're all getting enough sleep. 4, thoughts. 5, water. And 6, food, and that's what we're going to talk about today, holistic nutrition. So there are 3 characteristics that make me unique. I call these the power of I. Number 1, I inform the individual. This is personalized nutrition for your biochemical needs. Now, if you don't understand what biochemical means, think of your car and think of the oil that you put in it. Every time you turn the car on, you're not concerned or you don't think about the oil, but it's in there and it's doing its job. Or let's say it should be doing its job. That's kind of what biochemistry is. The stuff that's going on in the inside of you that needs to be doing its work that we don't necessarily think about all the time. In this business, you would think that informing the individual is key, but I can share with you from my experience, a lot of times, whether it be other individuals doing nutrition or a lot of nutrition books, that you, as a unique individual, is not always considered in the nutrition plan. It can be just a photocopy or just some words written on a paper that is good for the author, but the question is it good for you? So these are the areas of health that must be addressed if you want to take a holistic, which means a whole body approach to your nutrition. First, you need to look at the macronutrient needs that you have. Macronutrients are your proteins, your fats, and your carbs. Micronutrients would be your vitamins and minerals. So this area is key for addressing health. What do you need as an individual? My needs are not your needs and vice versa. So we have to find out, what does this individual need? Well, one way we do that is by metabolic typing. There are some easy questionnaires that I hand out that someone would go through, and it gives them a key or a clue where to start looking to eat for their needs. There's 3 basic types. There's a protein type, a carb type, and a mixed type, and other authors would call it different types, but the basic theme is this. there are different types of eaters. Not everyone is to eat the same. Not everyone has the same needs. And if you eat wrong for your type, one of the main things that will happen, it will affect your blood sugar levels. Now your type can change over a few different things. I'll address three. One, your stress load. So if you're doing a lot of physical activity, or if you have a job that has a lot of physical activity, you're going to have a different nutritional need. And if for some reason you stop doing that for a while, your nutritional needs might change. The next one is the seasons. If you've heard about people eating seasonally, like ancient man used to do, well, your needs change as the weather changes. And third, which I'm sure no one here knows anything about, is age. As you age, your needs are going to change. So what do we do to compensate for a poor diet is we buy vitamins. So let me address vitamins real quick. Vitamins, like all tools, they have their place. There's an importance to them. But we have to put the horse before the cart. And that means that we need to make sure that we're getting good food first. There's an instructor of mine that had a very good analogy that I'd like to share with you. It's the concept of building a boat. And we're going to build this boat with some really old wood. It's warped, it's got holes on it, we found it out in the junkyard. And we're going to take this wood to build a boat, but then we're going to go down to Home Depot and buy these nails that are made out of gold. And we're going to hope that these golden nails are going to somehow help this wood so that my boat is going to float, which of course we know is not going to happen. We need to make sure that we're using good wood, and then if you choose to use the golden nails, i.e. the vitamins, it's just going to make it that much better, right? So the key thing is macro before micro. That means your macronutrients need to be in order first, protein, carbs, and fat, before we start looking into the vitamins. That would be my offering to you today, is really take a look at that. I've seen a lot of people spend a lot of time and money on vitamins, but if you're not eating correctly, you might be spinning your wheels. There's a few other things that we're going to look at in holistic health. We're looking at the three most important hormones in your body. Those are insulin, adrenaline, and cortisol. I also look at the 8 major glands of the endocrine system: the adrenal glands, the gonads, the ovaries, the pancreas, the thymus gland, the thyroid, the pituitary, and the pineal. Now, if you don't know what any of that is, perfect. I do. And the paperwork that I hand out that people will go through is going to explain what are the health of these organs, the health of these glands, and how are these hormones acting within the body. The basic role of the endocrine system, those 8 major glands, is to produce and regulate your hormones. So in this sense of hormones, you are what you create, you are what hormones you create, and you are what you regulate, if you can regulate those hormones. So let's just take one of those glands, the adrenal glands, and talk about how that could be affected. Well, first we talked about not getting the correct macronutrient content. If you're not getting the right proportions of proteins, carbs, and fats, what's going to happen is that is going to stress your adrenal glands. Low or high blood sugars will do that. When your adrenal glands are affected, so is cortisol. So you have insulin and cortisol being affected now, these 3 major hormones, that if they're out of balance, a lot of things go bad when those 3 hormones are out of balance. So when one is affected, the others are affected. Think of those 3 hormones like a gang. What happens when you mess with one gang member? You mess with them all. And that's exactly what happens with insulin, adrenaline, and cortisol. When you mess with your insulin levels, I can guarantee you at some point, you're going to be messing with cortisol and adrenaline. And here's a very tricky thing with cortisol, is when our cortisol levels are out of sorts, we tend to put on body fat. So, also in holistic nutrition, we look at the 6 major organs of detoxification, which are the lungs, large intestine, skin, liver, kidneys, and colon. So, when it comes to detoxification, you are what you eat, you are what you absorb, and you are what you do not eliminate. So, the second point that makes me unique and effective in my business is, number 2, I integrate all ideas. I do the work myself. And I feel this is a major point in my business, is that all the advice I give out or offerings I give out, I've done all the work myself. The protocols that I go through, I've run through those. The detoxification systems, I've worked through. The health, I've worked through. It would be meaningless for me to be handing out advice, but have not gone through that myself. It is what I call, or what my instructors have called, the I, we, and all principle. In order for me to help we, I have to do the work first. And that's a huge thing for me, and I take a lot of pride in that when it comes to whether nutrition or fitness, I'm always doing the work. I'd like to give you 2 quotes about this. A lot of times I write these quotes down and keep them somewhere I can read them. At all times, everything is known only by direct experience. And second, ideas are powerless until they become integrated. So all my book knowledge, all my years of college, all my continuing education credits, the seminar I'm going to this weekend for 4 days, it's all meaningless if I don't take those ideas, integrate them into myself first, and then I'm able to share those with others. The third is what I call the power of I, is I inspire intrinsically. This is the inspiring of what we are essentially inside and finding out what motivates us as an individual. We all have different motivating factors. For our goals and dreams to become grounded, we need to find out 1, who we are, 2, what motivates us, and 3, where we want to go. Without grounding ourselves with these goals, all this information can become very useless. It's a lot of great information. You could spend your entire lifetime reading books, going to seminars, learning all this stuff about movement, nutrition, all this stuff, but if we're not grounded on what we really want, I equate it to firing a cannon out of a canoe. There's no power behind it if we don't know where we want to go with all this information, what we want to do with it. The last thing, or one of the last things I'd like to share is what I do not do in my business. What I do not do is I do not fix people. And I found this is a very important thing for me to articulate to clients and to others too. What I found is a lot of people want to come in and they're looking for me to fix. Do this and fix me. Give me the magic bullet or the magic this, the magic that. Really all I do is I facilitate. I facilitate one's health because we're all responsible for our own. And all I can do is share, this is what I've done, this is what I've learned, this is my experience. Here, now you need to do your own work and go through your own process. And I find that to be a key thing for me. So, I'd like to give you my offering today, and I've used that word a few times, offering as opposed to advice, and I find that to be a key thing. I know for me that when it comes to advice or guidance, I can be very resistant to it. My ego can get in and go, I don't know if I want to hear this, so I use the word offering. You can take it or you can leave it. Also, too, for me, when I give an offering, it helps me because I'm not throwing an expectation out there. I'm just giving freely. So my offering today, 3 things. Number 1, find out what motivates you. If you already know, excellent. If not, it's time to do some searching on what motivates us. Number 2, remind ourselves, and this is key for me, reminding ourselves that we deserve whatever it is that motivates us. We do deserve this. And 3, pick one thing today that you're willing to do for your health. So, in closing, I'd like to just describe what a good lead for me would be. A good lead is anyone who is working through any disease or anyone who wants to improve their health from the inside out. I'd like to give an explanation of what I say disease. How can I help someone with cancer? Some might say this guy has no training in medical science, he's not a doctor. Let me explain. If we can go back to those 6 basic factors of health. Breathing. How can someone with cancer be helped by just breathing better? They can. Movement. Well, not only is movement going to help keep the body strong, but there's a lot of studies that say when it comes to depression, movement is huge. When you have a disease, could you not be helped out by some movement? Appropriate movement, mind you. Number 3, sleep. That goes back to your cortisol levels, keeping those regulated. Your thoughts. Don't need to talk too much on that. When you're going through disease, positive thoughts are huge. Water. Nothing happens in the body when it's dehydrated. And 6, lastly, food. It's regulating your food. So that's how I would help somebody in that situation. My job is not to talk about medication or medical things at all. All my job is to do is look at those 6 basic factors and go, which one factor can we talk about today, can we work on, and move from there. And the great thing with all these 6 factors, there's no negative health consequences. It's all positive. So, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Matt.